YB stays on your neck.
He's on my neck.
Great. He did a great job.
What happens in the rematch, Freddie?
Same thing.
Why is that?
Because if Joshua doesn't completely change his ways, he's gonna. Ever since he fought Klitschko, he's been going downhill a little bit.
What do you say that?
He's a lot more muscle. He looks really good and so forth. I think he has trouble carrying that muscle, and he's been fatigued in his last couple of fights. He's been getting tired before the end, and I don't think that muscles make fighters. It's like, he has big biceps, so he must punch hard. Give me a break.
And
I think he needs. I would like to say he needs a new team and so forth, and I'd like to be that part of the team because I do like him and he's a friend, yes, but I'm not trying to steal a fighter. But the thing is, I think he needs to go back to what he did when he won the Olympics, because that's when he was a really, really good fighter.
Yo, my dons, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and obviously hit the bell for notifications. So we just heard there from Freddie Roach spitting some home truths to Anthony a la cash cow Joshua. Let's take it from the top. Now, I've been meaning to do a video talking about AJ's team, and actually, for those of you man who haven't watched it, you should check out my live stream I did yesterday, because we went in deep.com on this AJ training situation and AJ Ruiz situation, so check that out. Anyway, to the point of this video, Anthony Joshua gets told to completely change his ways by Freddie Roach. And let's take it from the top. Andy Ruiz does exactly the same thing if Joshua doesn't completely change his ways, Roach said when asked for a prediction on the rematch. Ever since he fought Klitschko, he's been going downhill a little bit. He put on a lot more muscle, he looks really good and so forth, but I think he has trouble carrying that muscle and he's been fatigued in the last couple of fights. He's been getting tired before the end, and I don't think muscles is what make fighters. Oh, and he has big biceps, so he must punch hard. Give me a break. So before I go on to the next part, let's address this. And these are the things I've been saying exactly. Since the Klitschko fight, AJ, that's 2.5 years. You should be making leaps and bounds. We should see AJ with better counter-punching. We should see AJ with better head movement. We should see AJ with better defense. And these are all broad things. I've gone into detail on them in other videos, and I will go into detail in videos in the future, but I don't need to do that now. The bottom line is, what we do know is, that Ruiz fight, I've asked people, I've begged people, someone tell me one thing he did well in that fight. I mean, technique-wise or strategy-wise. What element can you say, you know what, that was really good? And in my notes, before the fight ended, there was one note in there, and that was his footwork looked better. As in, he wasn't really footwork, he was just backing up all the time. Now, when I wrote them notes down, I wasn't expecting AJ to lose. But one thing I know, the only really thing I noted from that fight was, AJ's learned how to run backwards. But it wasn't good running backwards. He wasn't flicking a jab like Fury does. He wasn't fainting. He was just moving backwards. So it wasn't even a good attribute anyway. And that's not the fighter he is. But as I was saying, from the Klitschko fight, in that Klitschko fight, he held his feet. He had half step back, dinging counters. Very high level stuff. Head movement in the Klitschko fight. Fact. You can watch it. AJ's rolling under left hooks. Slipping. Right hands. It's there. It's to be seen. And if you don't believe it, you can watch it yourselves in your own time. I've gone through it in my live stream the other day. Factual. Why is it AJ's gone down a hill a little bit? I'll tell you why. His team has not been keeping on top of him. I don't know what they've been doing, but clearly not training. Anyway, next part, he says. He talks about the muscle now. Now, actually, in reality, AJ hasn't put muscle on. He was 250 for the Klitschko fight. He's 247 now, so he's about the same. And just quickly, that debunks, by the way, all these claims that AJ wasn't on juice. Listen, if AJ was juiced, And in the US, he couldn't take the juice, as Dylan White alleges and Jarrell Pig Baby Miller alleges. He would have lost a lot of mass. Yeah? When you stop taking synthetic testosterone for 8 weeks, trust me, you'll lose probably about 3 or 4 or 5 kilos of muscle. AJ certainly didn't lose any muscle, aka he wasn't juiced. But anyway, I've digressed. The bottom line is, I don't actually believe the muscle is a massive issue. For me, I believe my philosophy in general for fighters is they should lift explosive weights, i.e. they should do more of a powerlifter's set. Fighters shouldn't be doing 12, 13, 14 rep hypertrophy, which is what I think AJ is doing. AJ should be doing short, powerful reps, i.e. 3 rep maxes, where you're being explosive. Max weight and max speed. Lift as heavy weight as you can whilst exploding. Not so heavy that you're just dragging it up and it's really slow. You want to be able to lift the weight explosively to build that explosive power. In your hips, in your legs, in your arms, in your core. Explosive power. Boxing is explosive. Combinations are explosive movements. And what I've noticed is AJ, his combinations are getting slower. His power's becoming not as short and sharp. It's becoming forced, heavy, slow, laboured. And that's because probably his weight program and his training in the actual boxing gym. The things McCracken isn't training him to be fluid. How you build fluidity is by actually practicing combinations. All you see AJ doing on the pads is a big jab, a big left hook. Big jab, big hook. That's not how you build fluidity. You build fluidity by, as an example, look at Floyd Mayweather on the pads. Now he does tap it, but still, that's how you build fluidity. You see Floyd Mayweather tapping the pads real quick. High combinations, which Floyd Mayweather does like 30, 40 punch combinations. That's how you build fluidity. You don't build fluidity by stepping in with one big jab and a big left hook. All that builds is big heavy shots that can be timed and countered and people can see coming from a mile off. These are the things Rob McCracken's doing. You can see it in the sessions. Yeah? Fact. He's not being conditioned to actually roll shots and be fluid. Which is something he's actually gone backwards. If you look at the Dylan White fight, which I watched recently, he was in there reeling combinations off. Reeling them off. Throwing them at ease. They were literally, it's like almost like a poet. When a poet speaks, his words roll off of his tongue. The shots in the Dylan White fight were rolling off of his hands. He was flowing with it. The Ruiz fight, there was none of that. The Ruiz fight, it was all feet planted and just banging. There was no fluidity or speed or relaxedness. Now, I'm not going to go into the possible reasons why, i.e. the concussion, because I'm done with that conspiracy talk. We're going to see in 6 months' time what was what. But taking AJ for his word, i.e. he was 100%, all of these things I'm saying stand. Why is he not becoming more fluid? We'll have to see in the future. He believes McCracken knows what he's doing. Let's see. Anyway, so we've covered the muscle part. Just in conclusion quickly actually. So as I was saying, I don't believe the muscle's the issue. I think that if AJ gets to, I want AJ to be a strong and powerful 240-pound fighter. 238, I think 237, 238 would be my target. He can be as muscly as he wants, but no more than 238. That's fine for me. I don't think he should stop doing weights. He should change his weights program. Short, sharp, explosive movements. Doesn't need to be doing 15, 16 reps. A short amount of reps, 4, 5, no more than 5 reps. Explosive. Yeah? Simple. Power. That's what you need to be doing. Not building mass. Bruce Lee was famous for this. Bruce Lee said, or not said, but Bruce Lee used to believe bigger was better. Bigger was stronger. But in reality, he actually learnt towards the end of his life that bigger isn't better. Bigger isn't stronger. You can actually build your muscle fibers to be explosive, but you don't need the mass. You need show. No, sorry, you need go, not show. When you go to the gym, you see all the meatheads. They've got a load of bulk, not useful. They couldn't do anything good. They can't sprint well. They can't do anything. Useless. Big useless muscles. But anyway, that's that part done. Next part. He says he's been getting tired before the end, and I don't think muscles make fighters. Oh, he has big biceps, so he must punch harder. And this is true. Look at Deontay Wilder, for example. Now, to be fair, Wilder's power doesn't actually... Wilder doesn't have technical power. There's a difference here. Technical power is when you're able to keep yourself on balance. You're able to act like... What am I trying to say? Wilder's been lucky. He's got away with what he does, to be honest. I.e., he hasn't fought someone who's been a great counterpuncher. Because my point is, anyone who loads up and literally swings their whole body onto the end of their hand is going to generate quite a lot of power. Fortunately for Wilder, he's been able to get away with it in his career. Just literally putting everything he's got, really winding it up and throwing it. So it's not a technical power, but still, taking it at face value, Wilder does that actually have. He generates a lot of power, but you don't see him with a load of muscles on him. He's quite lean, which proves, or it goes away to say, you don't need to be big and massive. But I do believe, to be fair, Wilder does a weights program or a conditioning program. So clearly, AJ needs to carry on doing that. But it's a trade-off. The bigger your muscles, the more oxygen they need, and ultimately, you can be as big and as muscly as you want. If you run out of gas, all that power, it turns to shit, useless. You won't be able to hit anything. If you're tired, you ain't hitting squat. You ain't moving. As we've seen in AJ's fights, when he gets tired, his wheels fall off. So I'd rather see AJ on the skinny side with less muscle than too much, because once you run out of gas, that's it then. What happens if he doesn't get a second wind again? But these are all things which AJ is confident in his team are going to change. I don't know. Let's see how it goes, how it carries on moving forward. Anyway, to the juicy part now. This is what Freddie Roach said next. I would like to say he needs a new team and so forth, and I'd like to be part of the team because I do like him and he's a friend. But I'm not trying to steal a fighter. The thing is, I think he needs to go back to doing what he did before he won the Olympics, because that is when he was really, really good fighter, in my opinion. Now, so the first thing that Roach said was he'd like to join the team, and I don't think that'd be a bad idea. For me, I'd like to see Teddy Atlas out of everyone. I'm not a dude, I'm not going to make out, let me be honest, I don't really know much about trainers, as in, I don't know every single trainer in the world, I don't know who's good at what really, I've got a broad overview, but for me there's no real standout, but of the bunch, I like Teddy Atlas, but Freddie Roach, he's not going to hurt the situation, I don't believe. I'd put it this way, I'd rather have Freddie Roach in the camp, just like Fury did. Fury brought Ben Davidson and Freddie Roach into the camp. I don't think Freddie Roach would hurt at this point. And then, actually, gun to my head, if someone said you can have McCracken or Freddie Roach, I'd take Freddie Roach at this point. Even though we've only got 6 months, I'd still take Roach. I'd take the gamble. I just haven't got confidence in McCracken. I really haven't. I haven't got confidence that AJ believes in him. Just based on what we've seen over the last little while. Maybe I'll be wrong. And if I'm wrong, if we see a new improved AJ, better than ever, I'll put my hands up and I'll apologise publicly to Rob McCracken. I will. I'm that kind of dude. I've got no problem putting my hands up if I'm wrong. But with this particular fight, there's no room for error in this fight. There's no more oops, I should have changed trainers for this fight. If he knocks you out again, it's game, set and match almost. But moving on to the next part, Roach said is, I think he needs to go back to doing what he did before he won the Olympics, because that was when he's really, really good fighter. No, I disagree. AJ, unfortunately, I've made this point for a while, but unfortunately, AJ actually hasn't improved much. Freddie Roach says there that AJ was a great fighter when in the Olympics, and he was, but we haven't seen the progression. Look at 2012 and look at now. It looks more or less the same. He fought this dude called Mihai Nistor in 2011. And in that fight, this Mihai Nistor was a short fighter who bobbed and weaved on the way in. AJ looked exactly the same as he did versus Ruiz. But actually, he looks worse versus Ruiz because he was backpedaling all the time. My point is, it's actually shocking. For Freddie Roach to sit there and say that AJ needs to go back to 7 years ago. That tells you all you need to know. That tells you all you need to know about AJ's training situation. It should be impossible. You should never. It's not as if, fair enough, if the Olympics was 2 years ago, and Freddie Roach was saying, yeah, I think Joshua needs to go back to what he was doing 2 years ago, that would be fine. There should be no example of a fighter that someone can say to them, you need to go back to what you were doing 7 years ago. That shows their team have been shocking, and he hasn't been making the progress. And I have to agree to an extent. Now, I do think from 2012 to around 2016, 2017, Joshua did make progress. That said, it wasn't massive progress, but there was some progress in there. But certainly, for these last 2 years, it's been going backwards. I agree with Roach. And that Ruiz fight was the pinnacle of backwards. That was the worst yet. But in the Povetkin fight, the writing was on the wall almost. Meaning, that low lead hand started coming out, and you could see the changes really starting. However, that Ruiz fight was in a whole class of its own. Mental. A confused fighter. AJ's become. And for me, ultimately, what it boils down to is, regardless of what Roach says or what I say, McCracken's had him for 7 years. What improvements have there been? And it's not as if you can sit there and say, well, McCracken's got a great pedigree. What has McCracken done? Carl Froch had a world-class chin, and he was only a 168 fighter. Them smaller fighters, they don't have to deal with the same power, and in the 168 division, there was no real big punchers there. Andre Ward was the best one, but he wasn't a power puncher. There was no power punchers in the 168 division at the time. So, for all we know, if Roach... Well, put it this way, Carl Froch did get put down. Got put down by George Groves. So, even then, his chin wasn't able to get him out of jail with that particular shot. So, what great things did... Over the 10 years that McCracken was with Carl Froch, what great things did he do for Carl Froch? Not much, really. How was Carl Froch changed? He didn't. He came in as a fighter who used his chin, and left as a fighter who used his chin. AJ's the same, I'm sorry. He hasn't... If I was with a fighter for 8 years, you'd see massive improvements. I believe it. Maybe I'm blowing my own trumpet, but I believe you'd see massive improvements in every area. Oh, wow, look. In 2011, AJ used to pull his right hand to his chest and ding it from there, rather than throwing it straight out. Oh, look now. A few years later, AJ's keeping his hand at his chin and he's throwing it from his chin. Or AJ used to recoil his lead hand lower. Or whatever. All these little... Or look, AJ used to run out of gas after 5 rounds. Now, he can go all day. Or AJ used to be a counter puncher. Now he's thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead and setting people up. All these little things, they're things we don't see in AJ. We haven't seen AJ's counter punching ability improve. In fact, I didn't see one counter punch from AJ in the Ruiz fight. We haven't seen AJ's combinations improve. They haven't become more fluid. In fact, he throws less combinations now. As an example, look at the Klitschko fight. Look at the Dylan White fight compared to the Ruiz one, or even the Povetkin fight. But they're my opinions, and I agree with Freddie Roach, man. Roach needs to get in there. I don't know what to say anymore. All we can do now is sit and hope and that AJ knows what he's doing. Let's see. Time will surely tell.